The Zephyrian High Command had made their calculations with typical precision. The third planet from the yellow star showed promising signs of a developing civilization, crude nuclear technology, basic spaceflight, and most importantly, a population of nearly 8 billion potential laborers. The species called themselves humans, and their physiological scans indicated adequate strength and endurance for the mining operations on Kepler 442b. Admiral Vextar reviewed the conquest protocol one final time. Standard procedure: demonstration of overwhelming force, elimination of military leadership, subjugation of the population. The Zephyrian Empire had perfected this process across 47 systems. Humans would be no different. The invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Massive dreadnoughts blotted out the sun over major population centers, their weapons trained on military installations worldwide. Within 6 hours, every major government had received the same message in their respective languages: surrender unconditionally. Your species will serve the Zephyrian Empire. Resistance is futile. What the Zephyrians hadn't accounted for was humanity's peculiar relationship with the word futile. Captain Sarah Chen of the USS Defiance was among the first to witness humanity's response. As Zephyrian dropships descended toward the Shanghai Defense Complex, she watched something extraordinary unfold. Factory workers emerged from their shifts carrying improvised weapons. Office employees streamed from skyscrapers with nothing but determination and office supplies, weaponized into projectiles. Children as young as 12 formed messenger networks, carrying intelligence between resistance cells that had spontaneously organized in mere hours. The Zephyrians had expected panic, chaos, and swift capitulation. Instead, they found something their xenobiologists had failed to predict: a species that viewed impossible odds not as a reason to surrender, but as a personal challenge. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a marine biologist turned battlefield medic, treated wounded fighters in a makeshift hospital beneath the ruins of Mexico City. She'd watched her colleague Jorge, a man who'd never held anything more dangerous than a test tube, charge a Zephyrian patrol with nothing but a broken bottle and fury in his eyes. The alien's energy weapons had cut him down, but not before he'd taken 3 of them with him. "They don't understand us," Jorge had whispered with his dying breath. "They think we're just another species to break. But we've been breaking ourselves for thousands of years, and we always get back up." The Zephyrians quickly discovered that their standard conquest model had a fatal flaw. They had conquered civilizations that fought until defeat seemed certain, then surrendered to preserve their species. Humans, however, possessed an anomalous psychological trait their scientists struggled to categorize. They fought hardest when defeat seemed certain. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb coordinated guerrilla operations from the Appalachian Mountains, where coal miners had transformed their knowledge of tunnel systems into an underground war machine. The Zephyrians controlled the surface, but beneath their feet, humanity was building something they'd never encountered before. A military force born not from conquest, but from the simple refusal to kneel. 3 months into the occupation, Admiral Vextar requested reinforcements for the first time in his career. The humans weren't just resisting, they were evolving. Every Zephyrian tactic was analyzed, countered, and turned against them. Their energy shields were useless against kinetic weapons jury-rigged from construction equipment. Their advanced surveillance systems couldn't track fighters, who used century-old knowledge of wind patterns and animal behavior. But it was a transmission from a human called the Professor, later identified as retired physics teacher David Park, that truly shook the Zephyrian command structure. Broadcasting from a hidden location, his words spread across every human communication network still operational. "You came here looking for slaves. You found something your empire has never encountered. A species that turns slavery into freedom, occupation into revolution, and hopelessness into hope. You wanted workers who would mine your asteroids. Instead, you've awakened 8 billion individuals who would rather die free than live in chains." The breakthrough came when 17-year-old hacker Maya Patel, working from a basement server farm in Mumbai, cracked the Zephyrian communication protocols. Within hours, human forces were intercepting enemy transmissions, predicting their movements, and for the first time since the invasion began, taking the initiative. The tide turned during what historians would later call the Siege of Geneva. Zephyrian forces had surrounded the last major human government stronghold, confident that starvation would force surrender. Instead, they watched in bewilderment as supply runs continued through impossible terrain, carried by volunteers who treated death as an acceptable occupational hazard. When the siege broke after 2 weeks, it wasn't because the defenders surrendered. It was because human forces had simultaneously struck Zephyrian supply lines across 3 continents, using tactics no military academy had ever taught because they were invented by farmers, students, and grandmothers who simply refused to accept that invasion meant defeat. Admiral Vextar's final report to the Zephyrian High Command was brief. Recommend immediate withdrawal from System Sol 3. The humans are unsuitable for slavery. They have infected our own troops with something their philosophers call hope. We came seeking to create slaves. They have created soldiers. Worse, they have created soldiers who fight not for conquest but for something our empire cannot comprehend, the belief that freedom is worth any price. The evacuation took place on a Saturday. As Zephyrian ships retreated toward the edge of the solar system, they left behind something unprecedented in their empire's history. A species they had failed to conquer not because of superior technology, but because of an indomitable spirit that transformed ordinary people into extraordinary defenders of their world. In the aftermath, as humanity began rebuilding, one message was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Earth remembers, and Earth endures. Anyone seeking slaves need not apply, but those seeking allies in the cause of freedom will always find sanctuary among the stars where humans dwell. The Zephyrian Empire never returned, but their databases now contained a new entry, marked with the highest threat classification. Humans, approach with extreme caution. This species weaponizes hope.